Joining us now with some thoughts on all this, Ambassador James Woolsey, who is also the former director of the CIA and chairman of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies here in our New York studios. And it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Good to be with you.
Thank you so much. What was your reaction as you watched the optics of this, seeing our president over there meeting with members of the royal family at a time, trying to ease some of the tensions that have been generated from the efforts to try to pass this bill on Capitol Hill?
Well, I think that he was trying to smooth things over, because this is one of the only things where he's tilting toward the Saudis and away from the Iranians. He tends to be quite more accommodating, I think, to Iran, and I don't think that's wise. But on this bill, I have a special feeling about this because I came very close to losing a son on 9/11, saved by a transit policeman who probably died doing it.
Wow.
And so I understand the position of these families very much. I think that, however, it's really important that this could lead other countries to pass similar legislation. And take a case in the Middle East now. We are using drone strikes to hit terrorist leaders and take them out. Suppose we hit one in Lebanon, let's say, successfully. A member of Hezbollah. Hezbollah and Iran kind of run Lebanon. That took place. And then all of a sudden in the Lebanese courts, the family of the terrorist is suing the United States, because Lebanon has, in this hypothetical, a statute similar to what wants to be passed, is trying to get passed here. I think also it's going to be awfully hard to find people who are willing to go abroad and do anything very risky. If you, whether you're a CIA officer or a State Department diplomat or a military, and get into a situation where you start triggering lawsuits, it's going to be kind of a lawyer's employment act, I'm afraid.
But the fact that Saudi Arabia not wasting any time and firing back in such a bold and open way, saying, if you do this, we are going to pull millions of dollars out of, the economy. It's going to affect you in a big way, and it's a direct hit at a time when, is that really, there's so much going on. Is that really necessary? You need our, they need our support, and they need our backing in so many ways.
They do, but they've been trying to get it, and they haven't succeeded with President Obama. Now, in this one, he's on their side. But I think the Saudis are sometimes their own worst enemies, because on this issue, I think they're right. And they're not handling it in such a way as to be diplomatic and so forth. They're throwing their weight around, and they have a lot of weight. They're a very wealthy country and #1 oil state in the world. So I think it's not being handled well either by either side.
Should it be made public, what's been held confidential to this point, about any concerns about alleged ties with Saudi Arabia, that somebody in that government may have been involved in plotting the 9/11 attacks? Well,
I think here's where the First Amendment cuts in. I think there's no good reason why we can't have a debate about this knowing the facts. Now, if these 28 pages have some release of secret tactics and methods of collecting intelligence in them, then they ought, or some part of them ought not to be released. But nobody says that that's the case. They're about relationships within the Saudi community. And I think the key thing is whether the Saudi government was involved in, or any part of it.
If not the royal family, but other mid-level government officials, or maybe there were members of the royal family. Who knows?
The royal family can get pretty big in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Bin Laden was not part of the royal family; he was part of one of the leading families of Saudi Arabia, and that's what makes it kind of complicated to deal with the Saudis.
And so, do you think the White House is trying to, prevent that from happening because there is actual evidence in there that would prove the connection?
It may be, but it also, I hope, is because they understand how important the Saudis are in helping us be able to check Iran. I'm hoping that the president is not as pro-Iranian as some of his decisions would suggest, and that we are really going to work hard to check Iran and its satellites like Hezbollah and so forth, and not just give in to good feelings about Iran. And to do that, we need the Saudis. And the fact that the Saudis have religious practices and others which a lot of Americans find appalling, mercy killings or honor killings and that sort of thing.
Well, they have a horrible human rights record.
That whole situation is, I think, one that Americans need to understand, that the reason we won World War II was because we were willing to be an ally for 3 or 4 years of, at that time, history's greatest killer, Joseph Stalin. But we needed him against Hitler, right. And we need the Saudis against the Iranians.
Wow, sometimes it's a very delicate dance when you're dealing with players like this, and you're up against a lot of forces that are very, very hard to deal with.
Absolutely.
Well, Ambassador Woolsey, it's so great to have you on board here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great
Always
to be
a
with
pleasure
you.
to have you here.